afternoon. Fantastic. Good afternoon. My name is Peter Ferguson. I'm the coordinator of Culture, Inclusion, and Scholar Development here at Lincoln Public Schools, and also the co-coordinator of today's experience. I want to start off by welcoming you to the African American Read-In, which is an ongoing collaboration between Lincoln Public Schools and the Lincoln City Libraries. The purpose, many ask, of this read-in is to share the unique experiences found in African American literature with students from pre-K to adults. Today, you will have the privilege to hear readings and view performances by many community stakeholders that will explore the African American history and the role and the contributions of African Americans in literature and the arts. I start off by standing here today in appreciation of my mother and father, which are pictured up on the screen, the late Howard and Alita Ferguson. Each of them exposed me to literature at an early age through children's books that reflected me. These books were not always readily available at bookstores, libraries, Targets, Walmarts, or other shelves. My mother committed each year to give my sister and myself a children's book at Christmas that reflected us. She continued this tradition with my daughter, and when she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, I continued it with my daughter. The tradition is the foundation and the inspiration for the 15 years of the Belmont Community Book Project, which you will see during this read-in. With that, it's my small way to honor her. It's honor my history and me remembering that the passport she provided me through the arts, literature, and music came well before I could obtain a physical one. It is appreciation of the present and the June 24th, 2018 Governing Council of American Library Association, the ALA, historic resolution that apologized to African Americans for the wrong committed against them in segregated public libraries. The ALA also commended those who risked their lives to integrate public libraries for their bravery, courage, and in challenging segregation in those libraries and forcing them to live up to the rhetoric of their ideals. In closing, I want to express my appreciation to those who will stay steadfast in 2024 and beyond, similar to the 1960s Greenville, South Carolina 8, the 1961 Jackson, Mississippi Tougaloo 9, and the 1964 Greensburg, Louisiana State Helena 4, as well as those other sit-ins and protesters that ensured that Black history does not become a hidden figure. Again, welcome to the annual African American Read-In, which can occur not just today, but any day, any month, or any year. Thanks to everyone in attendance and those viewing, and please enjoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yangwa Dang, and I've been asked to give the land acknowledgement today. Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that we're living on the past, present, and future homelands of the Pawnee, Otto-Missouri, Omaha, and Kansas peoples. The Salt Basin around present-day Lincoln attracted many indigenous nations to this region. The Omaha called the area Niskite, or salt, and their women used eagle feathers to collect the salt, which they used to cure buffalo meat. Under pressure from settlers and federal government, the Otto-Missourians ceded the land that became Lincoln to the federal government in 1833 and 1854. This forced out the tribal peoples who had called the Niskite home for many generations. This land holds history, and a land acknowledgement is an understatement of the damage done to the indigenous people on the Turtle Island from Alaska to Chile. We would like to emphasize the importance of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and remember that this country was built on the genocide of Indigenous people of the Americas and the enslavement of African Americans. Alongside this acknowledgement of colonial genocide, I would like to remind everyone of those individuals and those who have benefited from the exploitation of the land, as well as the Indigenous peoples, and continue to benefit from the subjugation of Black, Indigenous, and people of color. With that being said, the land on which we stand should be returned to the Indigenous people, or they should be fairly compensated for their loss of language, culture, religion, and autonomy. I encourage everyone to remember that this is part of our history as well as our future, and that reconciliation cannot happen without action and love. Native peoples of many nations today live in Lincoln and contribute to our community, vitality and diversity, and today we thank them for their stewardship of these lands. Opia Tonka, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Catherine Archie Johnson. I'm the director of the Dome Lincoln campus in the Omaha location here in Nebraska. In 1900, James Weldon Johnson composed. Can you all hear me? Yes. Okay. I couldn't hear myself, so sorry about that. James Weldon Johnson composed the poem that would become the hymn that in the 1920s would be adopted by the NAACP as the official Negro anthem, and often referred to as the Black National Anthem. In 1899, James Weldon Johnson wrote a poem about the struggle and perseverance of the Black community to celebrate Abraham Lincoln's birthday. His brother, John Rosamond Johnson, suggested setting the poem to music. A chorus of 500 students sang their new hymn at the event. When the Civil Rights era began in the 1950s, Lift Every Voice and Sing was sung during organizational meetings for the Montgomery bus boycott and quoted in speeches by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In the 70s, Lift Every Voice and Sing was adopted as a symbol of resistance. Following King's assassination, a crowd in Roxbury, Mass, sang the song. James Brown even slipped the line from the song into the national anthem before Muhammad Ali's bout against Chuck Wepner. In 2009, Reverend Joseph Laurie quoted the song during President Barack Obama's inauguration. Singer Alicia Keys performed a pre-recorded version that aired before the Super Bowl 55 in 2021. This song is a universal anthem that inspires and unites people. It reminds us to rise, remember our struggles, and lift our voices together. Please welcome community stakeholder Kiara Taylor, who will lend her talents to present to us Lift Every Voice and Sing. We ask that you stand if you're able.
All right. Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the day when hope unborn had died. Oh, yet with the steady beat, have not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father has died. Thank you. Put my eyes on. My name is Gwendolyn Combs, and I'm really happy to be here today. I mentioned to Peter that I hadn't done this in a while, and so I guess he decided to change things. But I work at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I serve in two roles. Academically, I'm the associate professor for management in the College of Business, and then on the academic side, I'm a senior faculty diversity fellow in the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. I will read an excerpt from the book, Never Forget That Our People Were Always Free. It's a book written by Ben Jealous, who was a former national president for the NAACP from 2008 to 2013. In this particular excerpt, he's having a conversation with his grandmother, who is a seasoned person in the movement and the fight for justice. And at this time is when he first discovers that history could move two ways at once. So he says, "Grandma, what happened? Growing up, you told us that we were supposed to be the children of the dream. We were going to be the first generation to be judged by the content of our character and not the color of our skin, the kink in our hair, nor the fact our ancestors had been enslaved. You said all we had to do was keep our noses clean and work hard, and everything would be okay." His grandmother responds, "Grandson, it's sad, but it's simple. We got what we fought for, but we lost what we had. We got the right to send our kids to any school we wanted to. We lost the right to assume that they would be loved and welcomed the way that I was at the one-room schoolhouse my grandfather built for his children and those of other freedmen. Or the way that your mom was welcomed into the Jim Crow public elementary school down the street from the public housing development we used to call home. My grandma was right. We got the right to serve in law enforcement like my grandfather, but we lost the right to live in safe communities. We got the right to buy a house in any part of town, but at the same time, our people lost land down south at the rate of 500 to 1,000 acres per day, every year, every decade from the start of World War II until the end of the Cold War. We learned the right to be free. And yet, the one loophole in the Constitution that allows you to be sent back into slavery is being duly convicted under the law. And man, have we been mass incarcerated. In my grandmother's short summary of 200 years of American struggle, her admonition was pretty clear. It's not enough at any point to know simply what you are fighting for. You must also know what has already been won for you. Or you might find yourself, as many of us did in 2012, fighting to re-elect the nation's first Black president while states are stealing our neighbors' voting rights. in her pauses, in the glances, and in that regal way she'd arch her back before making a point with a word, a pause, or a sigh. My grandmother made an even more striking indictment. She didn't believe that my generation understood what had been won for us, the price that had been paid, nor what we were fighting for. By her calculations, it meant we were likely to lose. After all, if you don't understand the true price paid for anything others have gained for you, the chance that you will lose is pretty high. And if you don't know what you are fighting for, the chance you will win is pretty low. And so when I left that day, going back on the bus and making a decision that would come to define my life, I was going to school in New York. It's a long bus ride home with lots of stops. On the ride, I reflected on what she had told me. I decided that before I got off that bus, I would figure out what I was fighting for. I took out my notebook and started to write down all the things that really ticked me off. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Clashad Robbins. In this uniform, I am Senior Master Sergeant Clashad Robbins. And I tell you that because at 16 years old, standing in this uniform is something I said I could never do. But soon after, at 17, I decided maybe I can. And as a lead in to what I'm going to read, I want to tell you that one of my favorite scriptures is James 1:22, which says to not just be hearers of the word, but to be doers. If you're just hearers, you deceive yourself. And this book talks about how our kids can do. So what I'm going to read to you today is a book called Hey, Black Child. And this book was authored by Useni Eugene Perkins, who was an American poet. He wrote plays and helped children in any capacity. So I think his legacy lives on in events like this. So I will read this book. I want to put this here so you're able to see it, and I'll just hold it there through the reading. Hey, black child, do you know who you are, who you really are? Do you know what you can be, what you want to be? If you try to be what you can be. Hey, black child, do you know where you're going, where you're really going? Do you know you can learn what you want to learn if you try to learn what you can learn? Hey, black child, do you know that you are strong? I mean, really strong. Do you know you can do what you want to do if you try to do what you can do? Hey, black child, be what you can be. Learn what you must learn. Do what you can do. And tomorrow, your nation will be what you want it to be. And for all the children here, I want to say, hey, young child, do what you can do. Learn what you must learn. And tomorrow, your nation will be what you want it to be. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Teresa Wilson. I'm the special education coordinator at Southeast High School. And actually just probably really getting to high school, I've been in all areas of working with young people. Really went to school for elementary, but because I was a special education teacher, been able to work in all three areas, elementary, middle school, and high school. So it's nice now being in high school to see how they end out and know that they do make it, even though sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I'm sending them to the next grade level, and I'm wondering what they're gonna do. But I went into special education because as a kid, as we're speaking about reading was tough for me. And so I had a teacher that made sure that I read at home, and when books opened up and I could read, I continued always to read and love reading. So I went into special education because I wanted kids of color, because a lot of times, especially when I went into it, they were being over-identified. So I wanted kids of color to see that, hey, just because you might have this label, you can do anything you can do, you can be what you want to be, just because you have that doesn't stop you. And so I went into education so students can see me. I'm an administrator now, so they know that you can, if you want to go in education, you can do it. Through that education, learned, I was in sports, I ran track, and when I was younger, people always used to say, are you going to be like Wilma Rudolph? And I was like, well, who's Wilma Rudolph? I got to learn about this lady. And so learning about her when she was born in 1940, she, at the age of 5, was told that she would never walk again because she had polio. But having a strong black mother said no, and also a mother who was a nurse said, no, you're going to walk. Not only are you going to walk, you're going to run. And so by the age of 11, she was playing basketball, running. At the age of 16, she went to the 1956 Olympics and won a bronze medal in the relay. She went back in 1960 to the Rome Olympics and won 3 gold medals, the first black woman. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be like Wilma Rudolph. I'm going to run. And being in the arts and learning about that, actually running has allowed me to go different places, different states, and doing that, and not only coming from Nebraska, thinking of all the things that we've been hearing about women athletes, and hearing stuff, and she is a pioneer that helped us get there, helped me see that I can do this, I can even run in college and be something, and share my story and be with other kids. But I have a little piece that she has different quotes, but when you put them together, they read like a beautiful poem. She said, never underestimate the power of dreams, the influence of the human spirit. We are all the same in this notion. The potential for greatness lives within us. No matter what accomplishes you make, somebody helps you. Triumph can't be without the struggle. When the sun is shining, I can do anything. No mountain is too high, no trouble too difficult to overcome. Winning is great, but if you are really going to do something in life, the secret is learning how to lose. So all those are all different quotes, but they just read so beautifully together. And I was like, wow, those speak to the things that I know sometimes things may not go our way, but if you get back up there and you look at the people who have helped you get there, you can overcome a lot. And to the young people in here, find your things that you love to do. Try things even when you don't want to. You never know if you will succeed. So thank you. An honor to be here.
Good afternoon. My name is Hassan Ramzan. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor, Chief of Police for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln Police Department. I'm pleased to be here today to share an excerpt from Change Sings, a children's anthem, as written by Amanda Gorman and illustrated by Lauren Long. This book speaks about having the power to make changes, whether big or small, in the world, in our communities, or within ourselves. This book came to me as a recommendation by my nephew, who is also an author of a children's book. And so I've always enjoyed reading, particularly books with pictures, simply because they inspire the imagination. And when Mr. Ferguson asked me to provide the opportunity for me to come out here, I was very excited. I wanted to turn on my lights and sirens and ride out here, but I didn't. But certainly I am excited to be here today. So I will start with reading Change Sings, a children's anthem. I can hear change humming in its loudest, proudest song. I don't fear change coming, and so I sing along. I scream with the skies of red and blue streamers. I dream with the cries of tried and true dreamers. I'm a chant that rises and rings. There is hope where my change sings. Though some don't understand it, those windmills of mysteries, I sing with all the planet and its hills of histories. I hum with the 100 hearts, each of us lifting a hand. I use my strengths and my smarts, take a knee to make a stand. I'm bright as the light each day brings. There is love where my change sings. I show others tolerance, though it might take some courage. I don't make a taller fence, but fight to build a better bridge. I talk not only of distances, from where and how we came. I also walk our differences to show we are the same. I'm a movement that roars and springs. There's a wave where my change sings. Change sings where? There, inside me, because I'm the change I want to see. As I grow, it grows like seeds. I am just what the world needs. I'm the voice where freedom rings. You're the love your bright heart sings. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Bryan, a student advocate for the African American community, and today I would like to read you an excerpt from Percival Everett's book, Damned If I Do. Percival Everett is a professor of English at the University of Southern California, and he's a legend of Black American literature. This batch of 12 short stories spans multiple states and types of people across the U.S. These stories explore the human condition in sometimes direct and sometimes abstract ways. The first story in Damned If I Do, titled The Fix, tells the story of a man beaten in the street by shady agents, and when a local sandwich shop owner rescues him and gives him a place to stay, the man repays his savior's kindness by fixing everything that needs fixing. His fixing powers seem to be magical and impossible and draws the attention of the local community and beyond. It's a story of power, kindness, and kindness that hits hard in a soft kind of way. Douglas Langley owned a little sandwich shop at the intersection of 14th and T Streets in the district. Beside his shop was a seldom used alley. One night, Douglas had been drawn outside from cleaning up the storeroom by a rhythmic thumping sound like someone dropping a telephone book onto a table over and over. He stepped out into the November chill and discovered that the sound was actually that of a larger man's fist finding again and again the belly of a man who was being kept on his feet by the second assailant. Douglas ran back inside and grabbed the pistol he kept in the roll-top desk in his business office. He returned to the scene with a powerful flashlight his son had given him and shone the light into the faces of the two villains. The men were not overly impressed by the light, the bigger one saying, "Hey man, you'd better get that light out of my face." They did, however, show proper respect for the discharging of the .32 caliber pistol, and the men turned and ran. The man who was being beaten crumpled to the ground, moaning and clutching at his middle, saying he didn't have it anymore. "Are you all right?" Douglas asked, realizing how stupid the question was before it was fully out. But the man's response was equally insipid as he said, "Yes." "Come on, let's get you inside." Douglas helped the man to his feet and into the shop. He locked the glass door behind them. Then he took the man over to the counter and helped him onto a stool. "Thanks," the man said. "You want me to call the cops?" Douglas asked. The man shook his head. "They're long gone by now." "I'll make you a sandwich," Douglas said as he stepped behind the counter. "Really, that's not necessary." "Oh, you'll like it. I don't know first aid, but I can make a sandwich." Douglas made the man a pastrami and Munster sandwich on rye and poured him a glass of barely cold milk, then took him to sit in one of the 3 booths in the shop. Douglas sat across the table from the man and watched him take a bite of the sandwich. "What did they want?" Douglas asked him. "To hurt me," the man said, his mouth working on the tough bread. He picked a seed from his teeth and put it on the plate. "They wanted to hurt me." "My name is Douglas Langley." "Well, I'm Sherman Olney." "What were they after, Sherman?" Douglas asked, but he didn't get an answer. As they sat there, the quiet of the room was disturbed by the loud refrigerator motor kicking on. Douglas felt the vibration through the soles of his shoes. "Your compressor's a little shot," Sherman said. Douglas looked at him, not knowing what he was talking about. "Your fridge, the compressor is bad." "Oh, yeah," Douglas said, "it's loud." "I can fix it." Douglas just looked at him. "You want me to fix it?" Douglas didn't know what to say. Certainly he wanted the machine fixed. But what if the man just liked taking things apart? What if he made it worse? Douglas imagined the kitchen floor strewn with refrigerator parts, but he said, "Sure." With that, Sherman got up and walked back into the kitchen. Douglas was on his heels. The skinny man removed the plate from the bottom of the big and embarrassingly old machine and looked around. "Do you have any chewing gum?" Sherman asked. As it turned out, Douglas had in his pocket the last stick of a pack of Juicy Fruit, which he promptly handed over to Sherman. Sherman unwrapped the stick, folded it into his mouth, then lay there on the floor chewing. "What are you doing?" Douglas asked. Sherman paused him with a finger. Then, as if feeling the texture of the gum with his tongue, he took it from his mouth and stuck it into the workings of the refrigerator. And just like that, the machine ran with a quiet, steady hum, just like it had when it was new. "How'd you do that?" Douglas asked. Sherman, now on his feet, shrugged. "Thank you. This is terrific. All you used was chewing gum. Can you fix other things?" Sherman nodded. "What are you? Are you a repairman or an electrician?" Douglas asked. "I can fix things." "Would you like another sandwich?" Sherman shook his head again and said, "I should be going. Thanks for the food and all your help." "Well, those men might be waiting for you," Douglas said. He suddenly remembered his pistol. He could feel the weight of it in his pocket. "Just sit in here a while." Douglas felt a great deal of sympathy for the underfed man who had just repaired his refrigerator. "Where do you live? I could drive you." "Actually, I don't have a place to live," Sherman stared down at the floor. "Come over here." Douglas led the man to a big metal sink across the kitchen. He turned the ancient lever and the pipes started with a thin whistle and then screeched as the water came out. "Tell me, can you fix that? Do you want me to?" "Yeah." Douglas turned the water off. "Do you have a wrench?" Douglas stepped away and into his business office, where he dug his way through a pile of sweaters and newspapers until he found a 12-inch crescent wrench and a pipe wrench. He took them back to Sherman. "Will these do?" "Yes," Sherman said. Sherman took the wrench and got down under the sink. Douglas bent low to try and see what the man was doing. But before he could figure anything out, Sherman was getting up. "There you go," Sherman said. Incredulous, Douglas reached over to the faucet and turned on the water. The water came out smoothly and quietly. He turned it off and tried it again. "You did it." "It's nothing, an easy repair." "You know, I could really use somebody like you around here," Douglas said. "You need a job? I mean, do you want a job? I can't pay much, just minimum wage, but I can let you stay in the apartment upstairs. Actually, it's just a room. Are you interested?" "You don't even know me," Sherman said. Douglas stopped. Of course, the man was right. He didn't know anything about him, but he had a strong feeling that Sherman Olney was an honest man, and an honest man who could fix things. "You're right," Douglas admitted, "but I'm a good judge of character." "I don't know," Sherman said. "You said you don't have a place to go. You can live here and work until you find another place or another job." Douglas was unsure why he was pleading with a stranger, and in fact had a terribly uneasy feeling about the whole business, but for some reason he really wanted him to stay. "Okay," Sherman said. Douglas took the man up the back stairs and showed him the little room. The single light bulb hung from a cord in the middle of the ceiling, and its dim light revealed a single bed made up with yellow chenille spread. Douglas had taken many naps there. "This is it," Douglas said. "It's perfect." Sherman stepped fully into the room and looked around. "The bathroom is down the hall. There's a narrow shower stall in it. I'm sure I'll be comfortable. There's food downstairs. Help yourself." "Thank you." Douglas stood in awkward silence for a while, wondering what else there was to say. Then he said, "Well, I guess I should go on home to my wife, and I should get some sleep." Douglas nodded and left the shop. Thank you.
May it please the court. We, Belmont Associates Law Firm, stand before you here today representing justice. Today, we will offer into evidence the words and actions of those who have come before us and fight for such justice. Permission to approach the bench.
And I say to you this morning that if you never found something so dear and so precious that you will die for it, then you aren't fit to live. You died when you refused to stand up for truth. You died when you refused to stand up for justice. Justice is a word that's out loud on the news by politicians and educators. It's said in classrooms across the country. It's said in the Pledge of Allegiance. It's stamped on the courthouse walls. It's written on signs and chanted by protesters. But what does it mean? I enter into evidence. Justice is for the late Denise McNair, who rests in power as one of the 4 girls who were killed in 1963 when their 16th Street Baptist Church was bombed in Birmingham. I enter into evidence. Justice is July 1958 in Wichita, Kansas, when students led sit-in at the Dockham drugstore to end segregation. I enter into evidence. Justice is 1986 in Memphis when sanitation workers wore and carried signs that read, "I'm a man."
Justice is one of the building blocks of America. It's been hard-won, slow in coming, and sometimes even dangerous. We enter evidence. We entered evidence. In our case, justice is a picture book written by former U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara and illustrated by Sue Corneliuson.
Justice is. It takes hard work and an open mind. Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, or you may know me better as Frederick Douglass, an American social reformer, abolitionist, orator, writer, and statesman. So I asked President on July 5th, 1852, to define ladies of Rochester Ladies Anti-Slavery Society. What to the slave is the 4th of July? My answer is a no thanks to slave-holding wing of Supreme Court. My hopes were never brighter than now. I have no fear that the national conscience will be put to sleep by such an open, glaring, scandalous tissue of lies that this decision is and has been over and over shown to be. Where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, and where any one class is made to feel that society is an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them, neither persons nor property will be safe.
To find justice, ask all kinds of people to join the search. Justice needs to hear every side of the story. Your Honor, justice is me. Justice Sonia Maria Sotomayor is the third woman, the first woman of color, the first Hispanic, and the first Latina to serve on the Supreme Court. Justice is my dissenting opinion that we must understand the devastating impact on justice, and our decisions cannot be overstated.
Justice is ask questions, lots of them. Just like Ida B. Wells did shining a spotlight, lynching for women's right to vote. Like when I was invited to the march, 1913, segregation parade in Washington, D.C., I dared to ask. They asked that all colored women march at the back parade. I refused and stood on the sidelines until the white woman passed, at which point I joined the march.
Justice isn't afraid to right a wrong. Sojourner Truth, Your Honor. I was born to slavery around the year 1797, and my parents, John and Elizabeth, named me Isabella. I stand before this community and ask as I did in 1851, the Ohio's Women's Right Convention. Ain't I a woman? Look at me, look at my arm. I have plunged and planted and gathered into barns, and no man could head me. And ain't I a woman? They talk about this thing in the head. What's it they call it? That's it, honey. What's it got to do with women's right or Negroes' rights? If my cup won't hold but a pint, and yours holds a quart, wouldn't you be mean not to let me have my little half measure full? The first woman ever made was strong enough to turn the world upside down. All alone, these women together asked people to turn it back and get it right side up again. And now they is asking to do it, and the men better let them. Oblige you for hearing me, and now, old Sojourner Truth ain't got nothing more to say.
Standing up for justice can get lonely. Justice for me was only that day. For me, Elizabeth Eckford, a 14-year-old who was one of the 8 black students to desegregate Little Rock Central High School in 1957. I entered into evidence, and you must know their names. Thelma Mothershed War, Carletta Walzanier, Terrence Roberts, Ernest Green, Gloria Ray Kelmart, Minnie Jean Brown Trickey, Melba Patilla Beals, and Jefferson Thomas. I asked this community court not to stay silent. A white local reporter, Benjamin Fine, didn't stay silent that day either. He stood up for me. Educator Grace Laura, she may have gotten into trouble. Good trouble guarding me from the mob that day. Because justice is when you're silent, other people are speaking for you.
Justice can be slow. It is said no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. Nelson Mandela, was in prison for 27 years by the South African apartheid government. My crime? Standing up against a government that was committing human rights abuses against black South Africans. Released from prison in 1990 and went on to lead the abolition of apartheid in 1994.
Justice is. It can even be denied for a long time. This was a reality for 120,000 Japanese Americans February 19, 1942, when the Executive Order 9066, issued by U.S. President President Franklin D. Roosevelt forcibly removed Japanese Americans from their homes and closed their businesses. Adults, community leaders, and scholars just like me were sent to internment camps to experience discrimination.
But don't lose hope. Justice is always there, waiting for good people to find their voices. Justice is he, him, they, them, she, her. Justice being open. Justice is hope. Standing before you like Carvin Milk, a civil rights activist and community leader, and one of the first openly gay officials in the United States. In 1977, when he was elected to the Board of Supervisors, I, Jalea Loudermilk, put forward words of hope as he did on the steps of San Francisco City Hall. I can't forget what it was like coming out and having nobody to look up towards. I remember the lack of hope on people's faces who have lost hope. All they have to look forward to is hope. You have to give them hope. Hope for a better world. Hope for a better tomorrow. Hope that all will be all right. Without hope, not only are the gays, but the blacks, the seniors, the handicapped, the us's will give up. And you, and you have to give them hope.
Justice is waiting for red people to stand up together because justice can't do it alone. At times, it may need an army at its back. See so many people, leaders, scholars, educators. It gives me great hope that we're going to get there, but we must help it work out. We must continue to be bold, brave, courageous, push and pull to redeem the soul of America and move closer to our community at peace with itself. But no one would be left out because of race, color, or nationality. Yes, judge and jury, my life is a black life, and it matters.
Sometimes one clear voice can shine through darkness and say this is not right. But we must always stand watch because injustice is always reigning too. We the people must make laws to protect justice. 55 years ago, a few of our children attempted with me and John Lewis to march in Selma, Alabama. Across the bridge, we were beaten. We were tear gassed. I thought I was going to die on this bridge. But somehow, in some way, God Almighty helped me here. To see hundreds and thousands of young people with their mothers, with their fathers, with their grandparents, to see black, white, Hispanics, and others standing together, walking together, we got to make America better for all people. When no one is left out or left behind because of the race, the color, because where they came from, he said, we're one people, we're one family.
Our closing argument, Your Honor, Brian Stevenson, in defense of Walter McMillian, stated, "We need conviction in our hearts. We need a conviction in Mr. Bill Bryant, a student advocate who I now ask to stand up." We need the conviction. We need the conviction. We need a conviction, a smile of late Champagne Archie, and the joy of Hazio's uncle Lester Juarez, who brought till he touched. Their conviction taught me how to stay hopeful, because now I know that hopelessness is the enemy of justice.
Hope allows us to push forward even when the truth is distorted by the people in power. It allows us to stand up when they say, sit down, and to speak up when they say, be quiet.
But if we all look at ourselves closely and honestly, we will see that we all need justice. Your Honor, City of Lincoln, this is what justice is. And our firm of Belmont Community of Scholars rest. No, we'll continue this case, even after your ruling to ensure justice is.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kendall Lanier. I am a news and sports reporter at 1011 News. I graduated from Howard University last year, and I'm excited to be here. Today, I'll be sharing an excerpt from Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. I am a strong believer that you are always evolving in life, and every experience, good or bad, allows you to grow into who you're meant to be, and I think Michelle Obama's book is a perfect example of that. So, for me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously towards a better self. The journey doesn't end. I became a mother, but I still have a lot to learn from and give to my children. I became a wife, but I continue to adapt to and be humbled by what it means to truly love and make a life with another person. I have become, by certain measures, a person of power, and yet there are moments still when I feel insecure or unheard. It's all a process, steps along a path. Becoming requires equal parts patience and rigor. Becoming is never giving up on the idea that there's more growing to be done. There are portraits of me and Barack now hanging in the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, a fact that humbles us both. I doubt that anyone looking at our two childhoods or circumstances would have predicted we'd land in those halls. The paintings are lovely, but what matters most is that they're there for young people to see, that our faces help dismantle the perception that in order to be enshrined in history, you have to look a certain way. If we belong, then so too can many others. I'm an ordinary person who found herself on an extraordinary journey. In sharing my story, I hope to help create space for other stories and other voices to widen the pathway for who belongs and why. I've been lucky enough to get to walk into stone castles, urban classrooms, and Iowa kitchens, just trying to be myself, just trying to connect. For every door that's been open to me, I've tried to open doors for others. And here's what I have to say finally. Let's invite one another in. Maybe then we can begin to fear less, to make fewer wrong assumptions, to let go of the biases and stereotypes that unnecessarily divide us. Maybe we can better embrace the ways we are the same. It's not about being perfect. It's not about where you get yourself in the end. There's power in allowing yourself to be known and heard, in owning your unique story, and using your authentic voice. And there's grace in being willing to know and hear others. This, for me, is how we become. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Williams. I'm a campus supervisor at Lincoln Southeast High School here in Lincoln. I will be talking about will. Will history repeat itself? Yesterdays are history, opportunities to create legacies for generations to come. Wonderful yesterdays are kept in the corner of our mind. It is history we love to repeat for the warmth of good times. Difficult yesterdays are wished away. Pain, struggle, distress, abuse should not occupy space. This history many try to permanently erase, but will always lurk in the dark corners, ridding its ugly face. History is not a burden on the memory, but an illumination of the soul. John Delbert Ogden. Never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. Nelson Mandela. Observe good faith and justice toward all nations. Cultivate peace and harmony with all. George Washington. People are trapped in history, and history is trapped in them. James Baldwin. I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past. Thomas Jefferson. History, despite its wrenching pain, cannot be unlived, but faced with courage need not to be lived again. Maya Angelou. History will always have to record that the greatest tragedy of the period of social transition was not the stringent clamor of the bad people, but the appalling silence of the good people. Martin Luther King. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Daisha Reed, and I am a junior at Northwest High School.
And I'm Amari Harris, and I'm a senior at Northwest High School.
We are a part of the MLK Youth Rally Planning Committee here in Lincoln. With music's deep connections to the limbic system, people tend to find connections in music through memories. Certain songs take you to a certain time or a specific place in your life. Songs like Midnight Train to Georgia by Gladys Knight and the Pips, Fight the Power by Public Enemy, What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, or This Bitter Land by Nas and Erykah Badu. These and other songs cause us to reminisce on a connection to music to go along with the emotions it already arouses in us. Thinking of music as social activism, artists like Aretha Franklin raised their voices to highlight injustice, motivate action, and sing songs to memorialize it. With sweet grooves and lyrical jabs, these songs sharpen our engagement with the community and spur us into action to gain one thing, RESPECT, respect. The Freedom Riders employed freedom songs and spirituals as crucial to their nonviolent protests of racial inequality. Black musicians and artists have long used their craft to disseminate ideas, challenge precedents, call people to action, spur hope, and spread love, and, in our case, through the performance of The Color Purple, sisterhood and freedom. We hope you enjoy. Dear God, dear stars, dear trees, dear sky, dear people, dear everything, dear God. God is inside me and everyone else that was or ever will be. I came into this world with God, and when I finally looked inside, I found it just as close as my breath is to me. Just as close as my breath is to me. Rising like the sun is the hope that sets us free. Your heartbeat makes my heart beat when we share love like a blade of corn, like a honeybee, like a waterfall, all a part of me, like the color purple. Where do we come from? Now my eyes are open. Look what God has done. I don't think us feel old at all. I think this is the youngest us ever felt. Amen. Thank you.
Wow, that's really hard to follow. Beautiful job. I'm Dr. Chris Heffner. I'm the Director of Libraries for Lincoln Public Schools. And as we conclude, I would like to thank each and every one of the readers and organizers and participants for making this such an inspiring day. Each year when I attend this event, I'm reminded of the power of the written word and stories. Stories matter. The big ones, the little ones, the ones that shock us and the ones that revisit us again and again. They shape our worlds in permanent and profound ways, even when packaged into simple characters and doing simple, ordinary things. Stories help us define ourselves, and they help us define the world around us. As we conclude today, I hope every one of us will continue to search for those stories that promise to rework our worldviews and to shift the ways in which we think about ourselves, our ancestors, and our dreams for the future. Our school and our neighborhood librarians have long been champions for making sure every child can find a story that reflects, affirms, and makes visible the history, culture, and beauty of our diverse community. Through the annual LPS Mosaic Library Collection, which seeks out and promotes the very best new titles in multicultural literature, to The Seat Beside You, our newest endeavor in video storytelling, as well as our partnership with Lincoln City Libraries. We believe that behind each of our students, there's a story worth telling. Thank you again for celebrating with us and for championing, I can't say that today, the power of reading as we evolve and grow as a community.
Thank you, Dr. Hafner. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ryan Weber, director at Lincoln City Libraries, and I wish I could sing my last few words here like as beautifully as the two young women did, but it's my honor to say a few words. I'm grateful to be here with everyone as we've listened, reflected, and honored not only this moment, but this purpose. On behalf of the library system, I'd like to thank Pete and LPS and all the readers, the singers, the Belmont scholars for helping to coordinate the read-in this year. Thanks for creating a powerful way to honor and to remind, to celebrate, and to teach others of the importance of the invaluable and immensely abundant contributions of African American authors, illustrators, poets, thinkers, activists, and young people. At our library locations this month, we have special displays on Black history, and upcoming at branches, the LPS Scholar Equity Cadre will be on hand to read to young ones at our story times. At Lincoln City Libraries, it's our responsibility and our delight to build a collection of books reflective of our community and to make that collection available freely for you, for me, for our families, for our neighbors, for new Americans, for those without a home, or for those who are seeking answers or help or a smile or just a good book. It's our joy to provide that shared free space where people can enter in pursuit of a quiet corner or the inspiration to learn or to discover new books and new ideas or familiar authors and old books. Libraries are places of joy and freedom, and books are the cornerstone for discovery. I like Jacqueline Woodson. She's a great author and one of my favorites, and she's a cool human being, too. She is so wise. If you haven't read her, I encourage you to read something of her. She's kind of prolific. She's won many awards for her books over the years, and her stories are ones that hit you no matter your age or your lived experience. They resonate, they impact, they change your outlook. And here she is on the topic of reading as a young girl in the book Brown Girl Dreaming. I'm just going to close by reading just a small portion of this. She says, "I am not my sister. Words from the books curl around each other, make little sense until I read them again and again, the story settling into memory. Too slow, my teacher says. Read faster. Too babyish, the teacher says. Read older. But I don't want to read faster or older or any way else that might make the story disappear too quickly from where it's setting. Inside my brain, slowly becoming a part of me. A story I will remember long after I've read it for the second, third, 10th, or 100th time. Thank you."
In closing, I just want to echo everybody's thoughts. Thank you for the readers. Thank you for those of you that are in attendance today, and also thanks who have watched. We have some special appreciations up on the board. We want to again thank the Lincoln City Libraries, Lincoln Public Schools, LPS Communications, the City of Lincoln, LNK TV, Chesterman Coca-Cola, who provided drinks, the MLK Youth Rally, and then also Mary Ellen's restaurant, Food for the Soul, who provided lunches today. There you go. You want to go ahead, Eric. We, at this time, would like to close the read-in. However, those of you that are in physical attendance, we'd like you to check under the edge of the table, and if you have a colored tab that entitles you to one item off the table, a youth book or another component, and so it would be under the edge in front of your seats. Every table should have one. If you are not the recipient, you can go to the next one and choose closer, but again, we want to thank everybody for being here today. And then if we could have all the readers and all the presenters, quickly, if we could have all the readers and presenters up front so we can get a group picture before some people have to leave. Thank you.